Damn it, boy.
Boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Honda Street Garage. What am I doing? I'm currently on my way to ship out some shift linkage for Zosh because he's needed one for a while apparently, and I've had one laying around the shop. I'm also going to be putting a little special something in the box that I've had for a long time that I'm going to be sending to him. Be sure to go check out his channel to see what I send him if you care at all. So hopefully I need to go knock this out real quick because I was supposed to send it out last week. Also, it's actually finally warm enough and dry enough to actually really try these tires out, which I'm excited about. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of Honda Street Garage. If you haven't seen on my social media, there's a new shirt available with Blaine's face on it that says "Damn it, boy." There's a link in the description. Go pick one up if you want one. So if you haven't noticed, the guy in the beginning of most of the videos that says "Damn it, boy" is named Blaine, and he kind of lives around where the shops are. Kind of pops up every now and again, here and there. Anyway, if you're interested in having a shirt, the link is in the description. So I may have screwed up in ordering my wheels, or at least they didn't send me the right ones that I thought I ordered. So what happened is that I ordered the Cosi K1 15x7 plus 25 offset. Normally you're supposed to select a BMW E30 for that choice because of the center bore hub. However, if you notice here, the center bore hub is a little small. And that is because they sent them for a Miata. This isn't necessarily the end of the world, but I had to add 10mm spacers to really get the wheels to sit flush on here. So if you have this issue, you may need to run spacers. Luckily, the spacers that I had or got a hold of were centering, so they are centered on, so I don't really have any weird vibrations or anything. Now, what this effectively means is that I'm now running a plus 15 offset, if that makes any sense. So there is the possibility of scrubbing under hard turns and things like that, but it does make the car track really well, going straight, and look really aggressive too. So you can see how aggressive, you know, the wheels fit on here, and it actually really looks good. I haven't had too much scrubbing issues, a little bit here and there, but not bad. Now, effectively, when choosing wheel offset, a lot of people are kind of in the dark about this subject. Now, here's a set of wheels with a not typical offset. People generally that buy these type of wheels want a little more what they call offset, which effectively means that the center of the wheel actually sits in further. Now, if we take this wheel and we look on the inside, you'll see a bunch of numbers. So we could see 4x100, 15x7 DR20s. However, the offset is not really posted on here. Now, the offset really isn't on here, but if I had to guess, I would say this is somewhere in the 35 range or 30 range. I would say 35. If you were to choose an offset of 25, the center of the wheel would be pushed in farther, giving you a bigger lip. So when you have a wheel that is a plus blank number, what that effectively means is the higher that number, the farther out towards the edge the number represents. So if you have a wheel that is a 0 offset, effectively the center of the wheel is actually in the middle of the wheel itself. It would be farther back here. Now, generally speaking, with wheels that have something like a plus 45, it's gonna stick out even further. This looks like a 35 is my guess. I could be wrong. And then of course a plus 25 would sit deeper down, 20, 10, 0, and so on. What does this all mean when it comes to dealing with wheel offset and sizes and things like that? So if you have a wheel, let's just say as an example, 15 by 6.5, generally that's going to fall into the plus 35, plus 45 range, somewhere in that ballpark. There are different numbers, plus 30, plus 38. All those numbers just reflect how the wheel will sit into the wheel well. Now say you were going to get a wider wheel like a 15x8, you're going to want to do a lower number plus offset to actually pull the wheel out of the wheel well and bring the outside of the wheel farther to the outside of the car. Now the reason why is that a wider wheel is going to fight you on the inside, so therefore you want to move the entire wheel out so that you have clearance when you steer. As far as camber goes and all that, that's a totally different ball game to deal with, but just for being able to turn, you know, from full lock left to right, you want to be able to steer without your wheels rubbing and scrubbing on the inside. Also means that sometimes you can run wheel spacers to kind of make your wheels stick out a little further. However, the problem or the issue sometimes with dealing with wheel spacers is that you generally need a good quality wheel spacer. If it's going to be more than 10, 20 millimeter, they can actually be off balance if they're not centered on the hub, cause a lot of vibration. Usually with a 10 millimeter spacer, you don't have too much of an issue with that, as long as you just kind of center it up on the wheel as you tighten the lug nuts down. That can help. Now, also I should mention that I am not an expert in this subject. I've just had a lot of people ask questions about my wheel offset choice and wheel on the car. Now this right here is a set of Rota Grid Vs, which are replicas of TE37 SLs. I believe. I could be wrong on that. These are the typical Honda spec fitments that fit really well. These are 15x8s with a plus 25 offset, and you can really see how much deeper the lip is. You know, you've got that little bit more deep dish kind of look to them. These are actually kind of a rare size to find, not super rare or anything. Typically when you find these, they have a 0 offset, which tends to be a little too aggressive for a Honda, because they'll stick way out and have a really deep lip and deal with a lot of scrubbing on a 0 offset. But you can see how well these, kind of sit in onto the car, and they make the car look really aggressive as well. These obviously are copies of Rota Slipstreams. Oddly enough, it's a replica of a replica. But this is a 15x6.5 with a plus 35 offset, so it's got a little bit of a lip, and generally you could find these with a plus 45 offset, even where it has even less of a lip on it. Generally speaking, Spoon 388s, Rega Masters, they usually have a plus 35, plus 45 range, and that's because they're a 6.5 wheel, which means that the face of the wheel is going to sit out a little bit more, and it's not going to be too aggressive on the inside. So if you have, say, a 15x8 with a plus 45, it's going to stick way out because it's 8 inches wide. It's going to stick really deep inside, and it's going to give you trouble to turn. So this is another example of how a plus 35 fitment is. So when you compare the two next to each other, you can see that there's a lip on this, and the face of the wheel sits in a little bit, but compared to the plus 25 offset wheels, you can see how these sit in a little bit more, or stick out a little more and have a more aggressive lip. This is a 15x7 wheel with a plus 45, so you can see how far the center of the wheel sticks out, and there isn't much of a lip. And then of course you have your typical Steely here, which is usually, I believe, from the factory, a plus 45 on a 5-inch wide wheel. Another example. So I've had a lot of people comment about why I chose these wheels and why so many of the other people that I know use these wheels as well. Now the question is, why did I choose these wheels? Number one, they are real wheels, quote unquote real wheels. They're made in Japan. They're not copies. They're not replicas of anything. They are a very good, high quality wheel, and they are very affordable. The purposes for choosing these wheels is that where I live locally, we have a lot of mountain roads. We don't have straight flat roads where we can drag race, really, essentially. So a lot of the fun is in basically grip driving, I guess is what you'd call it, or track driving. Eventually I would like to take this to a track day this year, but for the most part the plan is just to take it on the mountains. Now I did have the RPF ones before, and they had a plus 43 offset, so essentially what that did was that moved the tire in further. Okay, now these are plus 25s. When I had the RPF ones, they sat the wheels in further, so during cornering the car didn't really track as confidently as wheels that stick out this far. If you notice how deep this is, that's a sign of, you know, the offset and how you can generally tell how far it's sitting out. You can see how aggressive these sort of sit here. Now, the reason that so many people have the same wheel is because it's a great wheel, and if anything happens, they're easily replaced. On the West Coast, people tend to run TE37s, and those are wonderful wheels, but they're very expensive, especially for being on the East Coast. You know, they're very high end. You know, if you're going to be out there kind of beating your set of wheels up, you know, you definitely don't want to have such expensive wheels on your car. But then again, you know, a lot of people on the West Coast run them. But here, because of the weather and how bad the roads are and how beat up wheels can get, you know, the Cosi K1s are just a perfect choice in my opinion, and I really like how they look on and fit on the car. Now, another thing is that the yellow headlights have caused quite a stir, especially with the amber corners. And like I said in the previous video where I tinted the headlights, I'm going to order more yellow tint for the corner lights, the clear corner lights that I have. It just seemed to fit a little better than the clears at the moment, so that's why I'm running the amber corners. But the whole point and the reason of doing these yellow is that when you drive on the mountains and the sun starts to go down and it gets dark, you want as much light as possible, and the yellow color specifically really clears things up. It's the same kind of concept as when you put yellow sunglasses on. Thanks for watching this episode of Honda Street Garage. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click like if you like this video. See you in the next one. Peace out and keep living your dream.